If it kills me tonight, a hero's not afraid to give his life. A hero's gonna save me just in time. I need a hero to save me now. I need a hero. I need a hero.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? Mitch here, bringing you guys one of my most personal commentaries ever. Today's title is Worst Day of My Life 10 Years Later. Today's date, May 5th, 2016, marks the 10-year anniversary that my father, a well-respected 14-year-old veteran of my local police service, was shot and killed in the line of duty. Now, I wanted to quickly address something here, and that is that you see a lot of shit on social media, CNN, and all these news sites that kind of like target police officers whenever they do something wrong. And don't get me wrong, I'm not defending police officers who abuse their powers and stuff like that. But I did want to defend the ones that don't, because you don't hear from those, and that's the majority of all police officers, because all it takes is one bad experience with a police officer and your whole viewpoint on police is changed, and you start to generalize all police officers as either being dicks or officers that abuse their powers, and that's just completely wrong. And I'm the only reason I'm mentioning this is because my father was nothing like that. He was an amazing man. He was an amazing police officer. I know personal experiences from people who've told me stories about how he handled situations, how he saved people's lives, either through preventing suicide or even performing CPR. And I know that from experience because he saved one of my neighbors after he suffered a heart attack. He got up after a long shift, ran over to his house, and actually saved his life on his porch. So I know firsthand that he was an amazing officer, and that's the only reason why I bring it up, so you guys' viewpoints of him aren't really skewed by the fact that he was police. So what this video is going to be is me retelling my story of what I experienced on May 5th, 2006, and I just wanted to quickly say this. To anyone that stays for the entire video, I greatly respect and appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you leave a comment, please be respectful. That's kind of common sense. And if you see any stupid comments, please be sure to flag them, because there have been people who have tried to get to me for disgusting reasons. They think that making fun of the fact that my father was killed is going to get to me, when in reality it's not going to get to me at all. I know who my father was. He was a hero to me, and no comment or anything like that will ever change my view on my father. So with all that being said, just keep in mind that this isn't my favorite topic to talk about. I have no problem talking about it because I know who he was, and nothing's ever going to change my view on him. And also another thing is that I don't do this video for sympathy. That's not the purpose of this video whatsoever. The whole purpose of this video is me remembering him and nothing more than that. So I'm going to get into the story of what happened on May 5th, 2006. So looking back 10 years, I remember so many details of that day, probably more than I should, but it's just a day that I'll never forget because of what happened. So I guess I'll start with, it was a Friday. I was 9 years old at the time. And the morning started off like any other morning. I had a morning routine before I'd actually go to school, and nothing was out of the ordinary. I went downstairs, had peanut butter toast, went back upstairs to get dressed, and I'd always come down just in time to say goodbye to my father, and he would always leave about 20 minutes before me and my sister would leave for school, and he'd always say bye to my mom and me and my sister. And just like any other morning, he said bye to my mom, said bye to my sister, then I came running down, and he said, "Bye Mitch, love you, have a great day at school." And I basically said, "Bye Dad, love you," and he walked out the door, and that was actually the last time that I heard or saw my father alive. Okay, so now moving on to later in the day when I was in school. It's around 2:10 now, and the day is still going like any other day. There's nothing strange that happened up until that point, and I was in grade 4, and so we were all getting excited to go home for the weekend, and out of nowhere, we started to hear a lot of police sirens go by the school. Now, we didn't really think anything of it because, we've heard police go by the school before, but there was a lot of sirens that we could hear going by. Then, out of nowhere, the school actually went into lockdown. So we kind of knew something was going wrong, but we didn't really think anything of it because we were in grade 4. So once the school went into lockdown, and we could also tell that it wasn't a drill, we were actually excited because we were getting to miss out on class. We didn't really think anything of the lockdown. They did make it clear though that there was a threat outside, around the building, within the area. So you can tell that the teachers seemed pretty concerned, but as students we were all excited that we got to miss out on class. So that was really all the lockdown was to us. Now this lockdown just seemed to go on forever. An hour passed and still no information or updates were given on why we were still in lockdown. And as students, we were still excited that we were missing out on class. Now that excitement lasted up until around when school was actually supposed to be done. And that's when we were starting to ask, like, can we leave yet? And they made it very clear that we weren't leaving the building until police gave us the okay to leave. So now it's about 30 to 40 minutes later after school was supposed to be done. And this is when a strange thing happens, because I was actually called out of my class with my friend, because her mom actually was the one that drove me home. I'll get into that in just a second though. But I was really confused on why we were allowed to leave when they made it very clear that no one was supposed to leave the building. And when I got called out in my class, my sister was there. We had no idea what was going on. And like I said, my mom's friend drove me home. I only lived about 3 blocks away from the school, so it was literally a 2-minute drive. And as we were leaving the school, all the parents from the other kids that were waiting in the parking lot were kind of yelling at us, like, why do you get to get your kids now? Why do you guys get to get out early? And stuff like that. And I was really confused at that point because I had no idea what was going on. So now after we get into the car and we start to go home, once we get onto our street, we start to see a lot of police cars just around my house. And as we get closer, I noticed that all the police cars were actually in front of my house. And I'm not even exaggerating here. When we pulled into the parking lot, there was literally around 80 to 100 people in and out of my house. And I couldn't really tell what was going on. I didn't really care though, because I was getting really excited to tell my mom that I was in lockdown. Now keep in mind, I was 9 years old, so that was kind of the initial reaction that I had. I was excited because I got to miss out on class. I was excited what was going on with the lockdown. And then once I actually got into the house, I could tell that something wasn't right, because there was people crying. And my mom actually brought me up to my room with my sister, and that's when she explained what happened. So she sat me and my sister down on my bed, and my grandparents were also in the room as well when she told us, and she basically proceeded to explain that she said Dad was working this afternoon, and he got into a confrontation or something like that with 2 teenagers. One thing led to another, and he was actually shot. And that's how she explained it to us, because like I said, I was 9, my sister was 7, so she didn't really want to explain it fully, obviously. But as soon as she said that, I remember asking, I said, is he okay? Is he in the hospital? She actually shook her head, and that's when I knew what happened. And right from that point, I just started to cry, obviously, for the rest of the night. And after that point, it just really was hard on me for that day. There were so many people in and out of my house through that day, checking up on us, including teachers, friends, support workers, to make sure that we were coping with it okay. Even the mayor of my city came by to pay his respects to my family. He came and talked to me and my sister as well, explained to us what a great man my father was. And it was just truly overwhelming with the amount of people that came to support my family. And it's not like my city is a small city where everyone knows each other. It's a city of over 200,000, and to get that many people that came to our house to pay their respects, it was just truly overwhelming and amazing at the same time. And I believe it's one of the reasons why I was able to cope with it the way I did, because I handled it very well after. And I think it was because of the overwhelming support that I received, and also now the continued support that I'm receiving, that me and my family received, because every single year since it's happened on this date, there's been a memorial that's been held at the police headquarters in my city, and also their fallen officers are also honored every single year at a provincial and also Canada-wide police memorial in Toronto and Ottawa. So it's just really amazing to see how they pay their respects to fallen officers. So now I'm going to quickly explain what actually happened when he was shot and how it happened. I know this from people who have told me. I've heard it from my mom. She kind of explained what basically happened. And so what happened was he was filling up gas at a gas station, and he was undercover, so it was an unmarked vehicle. He obviously couldn't tell he was a police officer at the time. And as he was filling up gas, he noticed that there was 2 guys that seemed to be acting suspicious. So he approached them, and he could tell that something was going on. And before anyone thinking he approached them for no reason, they had crack cocaine on him. So clearly he saw something that made him actually go confront them. So that's just to clear up anyone that thinks that he did something wrong. As he approached them, he asked him what was in his pocket, because I guess he put it in his pocket. The guy wouldn't. The guy was starting to act all defensive and stuff like that. My father then stated that he was police. He went to go reach into his pocket to pull out his wallet, which is where his badge was, to actually show that he was a police officer. And as he did that, when he reached into his pocket, one of the teenagers actually reached into his own pocket, pulled out a gun, and fired. It hit him in the in his lower face, and it was on an angle, so it went down into his neck and ruptured his jugular. So after that, my father collapsed, and the two then proceeded to run like cowards. They both ran in opposite directions, and my father somehow miraculously, after being shot in the face, got up and proceeded to get two shots off of on his own. He didn't hit anyone. Hit a pole and a wall, and then I guess his gun jammed on him, so he wasn't able to do anything, and he collapsed for a second time. And even after that, a witness said that he got up one more time and tried to like track where they were going, but he didn't have the strength in him, and he then collapsed on the sidewalk and died right there. Now, for the guy that shot my father and for the other guy that ran off, thankfully they were both caught within an hour, and both of them actually made it a good distance. The one that actually shot my father almost made it home, and then the other guy actually made it 40 minutes out, and I'm just so thankful that they were both caught, because I don't know, it would be a whole different scenario if they weren't caught, so I'm just so thankful that they were. Now, the scariest part of this whole experience was the fact that he was actually 5 minutes away from where I was at the current time, and as well 5 minutes away from where I lived my entire life, in a community that I thought was safe. So it just goes to show how dangerous being a police officer is, and hopefully people can come to respect police officers a little bit more. So that is what I experienced on May 5th, 2006, the worst day of my life. And to anyone still watching, thank you. I'm going to end off the video with this. And as well, if you ever get a chance to talk to me, please don't bring this up. It's not my favorite thing to talk about. I'm not going to be mad if you do, but I just prefer not to talk about it. So like I said, to anyone still watching, thank you so much, and have a great day. This has been Mitch, and I'm out. Peace.